Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining and tuning into our webinar. It gives me immense pleasure in welcoming all of you to the webinar, The Future of Tourism, The Way Forward, Malaysia and Indonesia Insights, streaming live from Cisco WebEx and Facebook Live. Thank you so much for spending your time to join us in this seminar, and I'm looking forward to share some valuable inputs from our speakers. Before we start, I would like to welcome distinguished guests and participants from different parts of the world in academia, in industries, stakeholders, educators, and students. And of course, a great list of panels and speakers from different organizations and institutions both in Indonesia and Malaysia, and also other part of the world, to share insights and perspectives of tourism in moving forward post-pandemic era. As we transition to the rebound phase of the COVID-19 global pandemic, the tourism industry is facing the questions: what will the new normal look like? What is the reopening strategy? 2021 is set to be one of tourism's most significant years to date, and as the world slowly recovers from COVID-19, borders gradually start to open, and we expect travel to look a little different than it did pre-pandemic, which we are hoping for. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very grateful to the tremendous and commitment and support by the webinar organizing committee, led by Dr. Reza Soltani from Tourism Webinar based in Belgium and team, and who have put together an engaging program. So without any further ado, please welcome the chairman of the webinar, Professor Dr. Ahmad Puan Maksum from University Sultan Zainal Abidin.
Good morning everyone, Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. I'm very pleased to chair this webinar, The Future of Tourism, The Way Forward, Indonesia and Malaysia Insights. And special thanks to Dr. Reza Soltani, the organizer from Tourism Webinar. I would like to extend my appreciation to all the 6 speakers for your willingness to share your vast knowledge and experience. My special thanks to Yang Bahagia Dato' Ahmad Rozali, the CEO of TH Travel Services based in Kuala Lumpur, Prof. Jennifer Chan from University of Malaysia Sabah, Prof. Sridhar Ramachandran from University Pertanian Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Haruni Zam Ismail from University Technology Malaysia, Dr. Ignatius Soni from Bali Tourism Polytechnic, and Mr. Muhammad Safian Amin, Director of Sales from Ramada by Wyndham Bali. And we also have a special appearance today from Dr. Paul Rogers of Happiness, Australia. And I would like to also extend my special gratitude to all the participants. We have now almost 300 registered participants from different countries. And the organization of the webinar is very timely as the world is still struggling to recover from the pandemic. And for your information, the tourism and travel industry very put crisis apart. We have seen many as well as natural crisis. We also seen political, economic, environmental and health crisis. But we have never seen such an unprecedented crisis of this scale, this magnitude in the modern history of tourism. And as data, we have over 111 million people globally have been infected by this COVID in over 220 countries. Although like this pandemic started as a health crisis in Wuhan, but now it already spread as an economic disaster, and it disrupted all the subsectors of tourism, including transportation, accommodation, food, SMEs, etc. And this webinar provides venue for all of us to share knowledge and find solutions to reset our strategic growth, especially in Indonesia and Malaysia, which are the main tourism generating as well as resident countries in Southeast Asia. And again, I would like to thank Tourism Webinar for conducting series of webinar. And I'm pleased to share with all of you that our next webinar organized by Tourism Webinar, Women Voices in Tourism. And we are very pleased to have very distinguished Miss Bia Pada from the United States, producer, writer, and host of many travel TV shows. And I'm giving Miss Bia Pada my pleasure to have you to 2 minutes about the next webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know if you can see me. According to my phone, I can be seen, but I'm not sure. But this next seminar, there'll be a few on women, is called Women's Voices in Tourism. And it's going to focus on a few different things. One, of course, it will be the women who are involved in the travel industry. And we're going to focus more specifically on the developing countries or the underdeveloped countries, because actually here in the West, there are a lot of women in tourism. But having said that, there's quite a hierarchy, because it seems that the men have the higher positions or the government positions that have an umbrella over the travel industry. So this will be a lively discussion from that standpoint. Secondly, it's just the importance of the voices of women in travel, which brings us to the third point, which is traveling as a woman. And more women are traveling alone these days. So what are their challenges? What are their the discriminations that they face, that sort of thing. So we're going to have a few of those with women from all over the world in every seat of tourism. And if you'd like more information about that ongoing, just check out this very website, which is, of course, www.tourismwebinar.com. And I look forward to hearing from all of the other women in the various categories of tourism.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Breda, for very brief introduction of the forthcoming webinar. And I would like to pass on the session to our moderator, Dr. Azim.
Okay, so much to Professor Dr. Ahmad Masum from Malaysia and also Ms. Bia. Thank you so much for your brief explanation about the future webinar about empowering women, which is a great topic, I guess, and also to give such impact to the society, hopefully. All right, without any further ado, let me introduce let me introduce the speakers and start. Let me introduce the speakers. Before we begin, let me introduce you to the line of speakers and experts. I'm very sorry. The first, we have Datuk Haji Ahmad Rizman Ahmad Razali, Chief Executive Officer of Ace Travel and Services Malaysia. We have Professor Dr. Jennifer Chan from University Malaysia Sabah, Professor Dr. Srida Ramachandran from University Putra Malaysia. We have Associate Professor Dr. Harul Nizam Ismail from University Technology Malaysia, Dr. Ignatius Soni Yarso from Bali Tourism Polytechnic, and also Mr. Muhammad Sofian Amin from Ramada Hotel Bali. So I would like to call the first speaker. Before we begin, Dr. Harul Nizam Ismail from Faculty of Environment, University Technology Malaysia, with the area of specialization, tourism planning and development, and urban and regional planning. And he will share his input about regional tourist flow in post-pandemic recovery plans. So please welcome our first speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Harul Ismail, to begin the session.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. So Dr. Nizam, the floor is yours.
Can everyone see? No. Hello, can everyone see my slide?
Yes.
You can see the slide, Dr. Yeah.
Okay, let me, I take only 10 minutes, right?
Yes, approximately 20 to 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much all. What I would like to discuss here is not much about the fact and figures, is on what's happening during this pandemic era. I rather like to share some question arises due to the remain uncertain answer when it comes to the tourist flow, understanding the tourist flow, especially in developed countries, for reasons such as Malaysia and Indonesia. I'm seeing myself as a town planner. I am a registered town planner in Malaysia, and I am a director of urban and regional planning in Malaysia. That as those are responsible in the supply side, especially in the tourism destination, we found that there is just some problem of supply side did not match the demand. The demand is that the okay. So my first slide basically will explaining the nature of this. If there is no tourist flow and there is no tourist movement on the side, there is tourist flow from the regional inter-regional between, let's say, Malaysia and Indonesia, Malaysia and Philippines, in the region. And then later, let's say there is no tourist arrival. Can we call this as a tourism activity happening now? Basically, there is no tourism. For the past 12 months, basically there is no tourism at all. Okay. Probably tourism that we understand is now is that people travel to do the business and meeting. What we can understand before 1970, where there people themselves as a traveler rather than a tourist. Okay. So that is my point. Currently, tourism exists. Okay. My next question is talking about traveling option remain unpredictable. So we cannot project what will the number of tourist arrivals for the next 1 year, 2 years, or another 5 years. So this is remain for those who are responsible in the tourism destination to the problem of maintaining the site, maintaining the destinations, how we're going to do this economy in the area that impacted with this conflict if there is no projection of tourists who are coming to the area. And then later we can argue whether if the pandemic, we recover from the pandemic, either we can achieve a similar volume of number. Okay? And that is the question. For the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, we do not know. Okay? And then later, if we are focusing on the domestic tourism, that means if you are looking on the Malaysia, the tourists coming to around the circulation of the let's say in Langkawi, okay? In Pahang, domestic. Is it sufficient enough to create a minimum volume compared to the arrival from regional tourists? I think this is the question that we must meet, and for me it's a vital point. Basically, there is no study. If there is study, they cannot answer. Okay? In order for us to make the projection of the future. So what will happen to our existing tourism spot? Okay, many of us say it's a tourism business district, and some of us, especially in planning, planning for the tourism food plus operator. What is our projection on the value of the tourism around the district? This is due to the what I call as the problem in the non-estating point. which are not functioning as a gateway. So if people cannot travel by flight, where they come from? Then can we measure the tourist flow in the area? So again, the issue is the same. If there is no flow, we can concerned about some excess section from intercity to intercity transport between international, regional, and domestic. So basically, if there is no regional tourism flow, it means no cross border tourism, and basically there is no tourism activity. So this is what is happening now. Even though that we are trying to put some strategies to settle and to try to cause that activity, but we cannot do that because we cannot control the number. Okay, so why such protection is very important? Like Malaysia and Indonesia, I think all around the world, we have been important of continuing the economy due to the sensitive. So if you refer to some of the facts and figures, let's say some top one of the policy report by the Journalist Center from the Development Commission of Knowledge. They calculate that on July of 2008, on average, every additional 1,000 tourist arrivals means that it is associated with 20 additional jobs in the European Union. Or the fact again say that increase of tourist arrivals generate on average an increase by 0.9% of employment. That means if we cannot get tourist arrivals, that we will maintain to lock the job. So that is the scenario. So for me as a complaint, I would say that I just the slide, right? Can you see the slide?
Dr. Nizam, this is closed. I think you need to share the slides back.
Yep.
Dr. Nizam, the voice is unclear.
Sorry?
Your voice is a bit unclear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the idea is that how are we going to know what is happening on site whether there is a tourist arrival? It really depends on the domestic tourists. What is happening on the outside. So I might suggest that we have several options to understand this, and one of them is what I call as understand what is happening in the tourism business district based on the real data. Okay, I give two examples in this case. I think one probably most popular dish in Malaysia, so called the business district in Langkawi, and then Kuta Beach, Bali. For example, here, if you refer to this, I take this scenario from 2 days ago. Indicate there is an activity happening in the tourism destination. Here is a Pantai. Of course, I did not manage to do the analysis. That just indicate that some sightseeing activities, eating, shopping, even nightlife activities is happening. Are they come from where? Are they come from original tourists? No, I don't think so. It's happening by activity from the domestic, probably. But we can monitor this. The problem is that I cannot get the comparison data from era before pandemic. So I don't know the increasing number. So if we can monitor this type of database provided free online, I think we can understand whether the number and volume of the tourists are increasing or not, and whether we can do the projection later. Okay, the same goes with what's happening in Kuta Bali. Seems that there is also an activity. Okay, sightseeing, eating, shopping, and nightlife. That means some tourist flow is happening, but what we do not understand here whether it was a regional tourist flow or just domestic activities. So this is what we need to examine so that we can understand whether the domestic tourism can cope the similar number of tourist arrivals days before the pandemic if we do not have the regional tourism. Okay? So my presentation and from the PowerPoint presentation. So I try to basically say that there is a regional tourist, okay, and how basically the tourist behavior and decision-making in the area of influencing tourist flow. So, and later I will ask that in the next future, are there what we call as a new emerging tourist happening or mass tourists? All this will influence how the regional travel will happen. And then I will say that if you want to look at the scale of tourism previously, before the pandemic, we must understand what is happening in the regional travel. The regional travel. Okay, so basically this is the idea of my generate discussion, and hopefully all my colleagues, all the speakers will, give some figures in terms of what is happening on site, exactly. For example, what is happening to the hotel, and what is happening to the current business for operator, for example, who basically try to get the number from outbound or inbound tourism. From the region, different regions. So I think that's all, Mr. Chairman. I can share here just to put into the context so that we can discuss. Thank you.
Cannot hear, Dr. Pan.
You have to unmute first.
Yes, already. Yeah, sorry. Let me rewind back. Okay, my apologies. All right. Okay. Thank you so much again to Associate Professor Dr. Harun Nizam, from University of Indonesia, for the insight. And next, I would like to invite the second speaker, Professor Dr. Jennifer Chan, Professor of Tourism and Hospitality from Faculty of Business, Economics and Accountancy, and Director of the Borneo Tourist Research Center, University Malaysia Sabah. Her research focuses on various issues within the tourism and hospitality management, including the nature tourism and tourism, protected areas, sustainable and responsible tourism management, hospitality, human resource management, and tourism marketing, including the tourist behavior, product development, and service experience. Today, she will share her topic on tourism industry recovery in post-COVID-19 pandemic through domestic tourism. So, Professor Dr. Jennifer, the floor is yours. You can share the slides now.
Can you see the slides? Okay.
Yes.
Salam sejahtera. Good morning to every one of you, wherever you are. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer, Dr. Reza, and the chairman, Professor Dr. Ahmad Fuad Maksum, for the invitation as a speaker to share with you an insight of tourism industry recovery in post-COVID-19 pandemic through domestic tourism. My presentation will cover the brief on tourism industry in Sabah before COVID, the impact, the current scenario, recovery through domestic tourism, and the way forward. Right now, for some of you are not familiar with where is Sabah, a little bit facts on tourism in Sabah. Sabah is located based on the map, northern part of island of Borneo, the third largest island in the world. In this part, it offers unique, diverse landscape, ecosystem, nature attraction, interesting culture and heritage. Tourism is the third largest economic sector in Sabah, provides more than 80,000 jobs. Sabah is connected with good air connectivity of 12 foreign carriers, connected to 26 international destinations. In terms of domestic air link, it has 44 flights of capacity 75,000 seats weekly, connected to Peninsula Malaysia, Sarawak, Labuan. Right. A little bit information on the top 10 country visits in Sabah are South Korea, China, Indonesia, Philippines, Taiwan, UK, Brunei, Australia, Singapore, USA. The total tourism receipt in 2019 was 320 million RM. There has been events that affect the tourist arrival in Sabah since 2013 up to 2015, as you can see from the slide. But effective 8th of February 2020, due to the outbreak of COVID-19, Sabah state government banned entry of foreign travelers to Sabah. The figure 1 and 2 show you the statistic of tourist arrival from 2002 to 2019. As you can see, the tourist arrival has been growing rapidly. Domestic tourist arrival seems to be higher than the international tourist arrival. But due to the COVID outbreak, movement control order, travel restriction, and closed borders have been implemented, and this resulted the significant negative impact on the tourism industry in Malaysia and Sabah. First of the cancellation of Visit Malaysia year, subsequently suspension of 236 weekly international flights with a total of 41,000 seats that reduced the international tourist arrival 70% and domestic arrival 58% from January to May. Subsequently, hotel occupancy was down 30%, less than 30%. With the MATA's statistic record, it shows a total loss of RM 560.7 million revenue during that period. So what happened to the current situation is that Ministry of Tourism focus on domestic tourism and market Malaysia as a safe tourist destination with the introduction of Cuti Cuti Malaysia as a domestic tourism campaign. The survey done by Tourism Malaysia in September shows that Sabah ranked the second lowest domestic leisure traveling destination before Sarawak. And in recognize that Sabah tourism will take longer recovery period as compared to other states simply because of the logistic and air connectivity as it depends. So why domestic tourism? Basically, it has a high market segment, high volume of tourists. Based on the survey, 75% of the local residents prefer to travel within domestic. That means high revenue or tourism received. Domestic tourism can be a driver for economy to recover from the social and economic impact resulting of this COVID-19 pandemic. Traveling domestically has less restriction, offer easy access in terms of traveling by non-air-based mode of transportation and own arrangement in terms of more flexibility. However, there are three important points to take note to restart or rebuild tourism industry. First, because of the COVID impact, it has created a new economy and business landscape, which emerged a new tourism business model. And that means, in terms of capacity building in relation to human resource and capital, must be well equipped with essential knowledge and skill in this new landscape. Second, to stimulate domestic tourism demand through economy and financial strategy. However, collaboration, partnership, strategy, alliance among the key stakeholders is crucial. Furthermore, the consumer behavior will be different, and to enhance their confidence of traveling is essential. Finally, to develop sustainable destinations which cover the new and diverse tourism product, focus on high-end, high-yield market, niche market, using digital marketing is essential. The sustainable tourism product should be more focused on nature, rural area culture, ecotourism. Next, in terms of planning for domestic tourism, I would suggest the three-phase approach. First, stay connected with your past and future guests through social media, maintain strong brand relationships, like some of the hotels. Second, initiate travel demand through marketing efforts, focusing on new tourism packages and products, having more flexible free cancellation policy. This is crucial for domestic tourism. Finally, strengthen the travel demand by having new marketing plan with the right demographic profile, travel behavior, and packages. In order to stimulate domestic tourism market in Sabah, first thing we need to uplift the interstate, inter-district travel and ban of local, right? Border, open cross-border traveling. A more practical health safety protocol, especially quarantine duration, affordable COVID testing pricing, affordable air and land transportation, confidence building for the consumer, stimulus measure, especially attractive discounting tour pricing. This is what's happening in China, how they stimulate the domestic tourism. Competitive packages focus on local uniqueness, destination, and of course promote through digital communication. For tourism suppliers and operators, it is crucial to understand the pull and pull factor of domestic tourism because it is very different from international tourism. The understanding changes in travel behavior and in the aspect of health and safety, design the shorter distance traveling and travel patterns, flexible booking, cancellation policies, use of digital marketing in the business operations. Moving forward for domestic tourism in Sabah, first of all, we need a holistic, specific economic and financial strategy in tourism industry to cover major tourism business sector, which is hotel, accommodation, transportation to operator. Sabah needs to be strengthen the air connectivity and flight being located in the island itself, develop sustainable tourism destination by focusing on recovery measures, resilient tourism networking. Tourism suppliers and consumers should move towards sustainable and responsible tourism practices. And finally, upgrading and provide quality tourism facility for high-yield tourists. We cannot afford to have a mass tourism now. My final remark is vaccination will open up the borders and normalize the domestic and international travel activity. But the central question is, what is the efficacy and duration? Domestic tourism offers quick recovery, but requires appropriate recovery programs under travel restrictions, new health protocols, and the new business models. Right? I'd like to end this to share with you some of these distinctive, unique, authentic tourism experiences that can attract domestic tourism. We have orangutan, we have dense forest environment, we have Provosi monkey, we have riverboat cruise, we have excellent islands, we have nice sunset scenery and waterfall. With that, thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Dr. Jennifer Chan from University of Malaysia Sabah for the insight and beauty, and also I think she's also playing a role as an ambassador of the state of Sabah. And thank you so much again. So next, I would like to invite our third speaker, Dr. Ignatius Soni Yarso. He is a visiting senior fellow at postgraduate program in Tourism Polytechnic. He's is now based in Bali, Indonesia. He is a historian, an academician, an industry practitioner. His field of specialty, including 19th century economic history, maritime history, and cultural studies for strategic tourism. He is also actively involved in health and tourism industry. So his topic today is related to historical perspective on post-pandemic tourism. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Sony Yarso to begin the session.
Yes,
All right.
good morning, Tabi, Tuan, dan Puan.
Good morning.
Salam dari Bali. Greetings to all of you. It is a rather bleak afternoon to be precise in Bali because we have 2 days with pouring rain. For reflecting our dynamic on tourism and historian is telling stories. But basically, the stories of the pandemic and tourism is going back a long way. I might probably say that during the Napoleonic War, the Grand Tour, and then there is the pest, the plague, that's also stopping a lot of traveling in the for tourism. So say, for example, foot and mouth disease decreased tourism in England, Asian flu and SARS in the beginning of the 21st century, yellow fever, dengue, Ebola, malaria, MERS, now COVID. It's all something that we are all familiar with and the impact of the tourism in those days, but probably the impact is more endemic instead of a pandemic. This is the picture of we might probably familiar with a Diamond Prince cruise ship that is docked in Yokohama April 2020 without clearance to disembark was a premonitory image of the future of tourism. So the expenditure and the financial cost to keep the ship docked in port was an allegory of what would become the economic effect of the COVID on the tourism industry. But that's for the pessimistic. We historians, we are more willing to and optimistic with these scenes, with people with the 15 that the SS Tallulah carrying around about 500 luxurious passengers has to be docked somewhere in the Rio de Janeiro port in 1915. It's a similar pattern. But on the other hand, this scene of the anchored cruise ships as the epitome of the mass tourism also saw a new paradigm of leisure travel. For a start, this is mass tourism like this is something that is familiar. Very mass tourism everywhere. And now suddenly, it's like I read a very beautiful novel that I can recommend to all of you. The novel title is The Voyage Around My Room by Javier Maestre. In that, the protagonist acting tourist leisure great grand tour traveler. Pandemic. Journey in his own room. All the rooms from the sex inside his room become the challenge of the traveler to the world. Is the very furnace of his home. Saying that, you see also an increase of the armchair traveler. Look at us now. We are in the meeting. I met Professor Fuad in 2018. We were still in contact physically in 2018 in Makassar, but now we have to meet again through the webinar because of the limitation of the pandemic. So it's more and more people that is, like Prof. Jennifer said, is more of the digital tourism, digital seminar, But is that on this digital sociology? People starting getting enclosure, mind you, in the 1915, that is the post-World War II. In the after this leading up to the Great Depression in the 1929, people still coming to the then Indonesia, or what we call it the East Indies. Problems actually it's being solved by the World War tourism. In fact, by saying that mass tourism during the pandemic in 1915, people then still traveling with the cruise ships, but now, say in the beginning of the 70s, after the flower generations, revolutions, people start doing some backpacking, become the hippies. In fact, in the early 70s, is one for the hippies. It's more of an individual. But again, it is something that is we need to look into it, how history can teach us to recover the tourism. Maybe tourism during that period is not as a quality services like the way we are seeing today. But again, the world is become wider, not only socially and physically, but digitally. Is that going to be that like some experiment doing that is we put our brain into an AI, and then suddenly this AI, which is our copy, traveling in the digital world and physically become an avatar. So there is also possibility maybe in the year 2030 or 2035, when the pandemic is still, like Dr. Fauci said, we are having to wear a mask for years to come, that we probably and meet everybody there. So start to value more intimate, short distance ship. People like sort of like more and more far away from the point of origins. They are more appreciate on the more eco nature tourism, and what we have in Bali. Obviously, there is plenty of it, and this is the mess. There was more a shift from the GIT to the FIT, from long distance to short distance, from the crowded destination to more open, private, and separate. More individual activities like diving, bushwalking, bush camping, and more inclined to nature and ecotourism with open and private luxury accommodations. This obviously will shifted like the way during, say, in the beginning of the modern tourism, and they like the people that can do the traveling. And what would happen with the middle class, with the mass tourism? They are declining, and then the quality for the mass tourism is becoming more and more compromised, not as previously we've seen before. I mean, experience in Bali, say in the last 5-7 years, we have an influx of mass tourism, mainly from the mainland China. And the quantity numbers is very huge, but I mean, in return, it's not as significant. And when we have a quality tourism, like a spot like in Ubud or in the other areas, which is more small group, not a really mass tourism. And this is more and more becoming encouraged because of the post-pandemic situation. And mass tourism become declining. And what I can see as well from a historical point of view, tourism becoming more and more appreciate on the local culture instead of more in hustle and bustle like what we have today in Kuta, Legian, Canggu, Seminyak. Because people traveling away from the hustle bustle of the city, therefore it is a challenge to all of us, including to Malaysia, on how to develop, say for example, an area of the locally managed marine area. How about to create and develop the community-based tourism? And in fact, of what Ms. Broda said in terms of the gender, that would be interesting, because if there is a CBT and more women player in that CBT, then we also facing a lot of sociological, if not religious, challenge in that area. So it has become a big challenge ahead to us. But again, as a historian, I'm quite optimistic that it is something that is we need to start. A pandemic give us a kind of a restart, recharge, and reposition. That tourism can be only seen as just make money, but it is a character development. It is something that is contribute to the development of the future. Then also it is very important that tourism is an identity, that all the travelers is actually in one position, that they are the global citizens. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sony, for your interesting topics and insights about future tourism. And we received numbers of questions from the chat box, and I will try my best to pass the question to the intended panels later after the final speakers wrap up. So next, it is my time to invite our fourth speaker, Honorable Datuk Haji Ahmad Ruzman Ahmad Razali, Chief Executive Officer of TH Travel and Services. Datuk is graduated from Northern Illinois University, United States of America. He is the Deputy Director of Hajj National Operations for several seasons and presenters for Hajj and Umrah operations in international and national events. Other affiliations including Exact School of Business, MBA program in Singapore, University Malaya, University Science Malaysia, National Archive of Malaysia, and Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents or MATA. Datuk will talk about the impact of pandemic to tourism business. So the Honorable Datuk Haji Ahmad Ruzman, please start the session. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and very good morning or evening, depending on our participants' location. The audio okay?
Yes, clear.
Okay. Dr. Wan, please interrupt me if there is some technical problem in between.
Yes, I will, Datuk.
Okay. So I think today I would like to try to represent the players of the travel industry in general, not really on the Hajj and Umrah. So with all due respect to the travel restriction and what we call pandemic action taken by the government of all countries, we still have to consider the continuity and relevance of us travel operators or travel agents. So there are immediate impact or effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. First and foremost, we would like to talk about the cost increases. So for airfare, definitely we have seen airlines charging extra for I think for their effort or for the action taken in terms of sanitization and other measures. So that will impact their own costs, which they pass to us in the form of airfares. And also for accommodation, in view of this pandemic and the existing quarantine requirement, there is indeed a cost increase in when you have the requirement whereby the hotel booking will be made on a full board basis, which means you have to pay for accommodation plus the meals in the hotel or in the room, to be exact. So if you travel abroad, you have to pay for all that when there is a permission for you to travel. So again, the first one is airfare increase, and second one is the full board increase, so-called. You talk just by logic, you would think that there are so many empty hotel rooms, so you expect lower hotel prices. But because of the requirement for quarantine, you have to pay for the accommodation. That's what we are facing when we design or we want to do proper costing on our packages. So taking that into consideration, we also have to examine the other advancement which go naturally by as time pass, and also which is hastened by the or enhanced by the COVID-19 pandemic, whereby first and foremost everybody have to be engaged online nowadays, as we are doing now. So people who are less online literate now have to make themselves at par with the rest. So by virtue of that, we examine that there are tendencies of people to be independent as individuals. So for us, travel agents, so-called, we may have a different kind of competition in this scenario. First and foremost, the individual themselves. Maybe they become so independent, with some of them definitely will no longer need to go through travel agents to fulfill their travel and tour needs. That's talking about individual level. So as you can see, you can clearly verify you personally yourself now no longer go to travel agent to buy air tickets or hotel booking. You can just do online booking and manage. So we can be, in that sense, travel agent can be less and less relevant in I think in the short term, maybe less than 5 years, maybe less than 3 years time. On the other side of the competition dimension, we will have other companies that indirectly will become our competitor. Let's say when any hotel, when they have their own online booking sites, so in fact they do away with agents like us or like any other travel operators, and also there are also companies. This just basically, to me, I term them as apps. Or apps companies or technology companies, people such as Trivago, you know the rest. I'm not going to highlight their name. They indirectly now become our competitor. So and some, not to mention names, but some airlines also they become like a one-stop center. You can not only you can book tickets online with them, they also become travel service providers. You can also book, for example, to the airline apps or website. You can also book car rental. You can book hotel accommodation, etc. You know what I mean, and many airline is doing that. So a small question to you, maybe, but big question to us is: what is the role or the future of travel operators or travel agents? So okay, that's so I share with you, let's say, the negative part of it. But moving forward, have to be more optimistic in saying that first and foremost, we believe and we are confident that for every problem there is a solution. For every disease there is a remedy. So God willing, in the very near future, the pandemic will subside, and the tourism industry will be on the rise. So we have as travel agent, we have to prepare ourselves now. We cannot wait and see and act when the time comes. So now we have to do several strategy in the short and the long run. For the short term, of course, you need to revise your costs and overhead structure. You have to recheck, reevaluate your efficiency. You have plenty of time to do that. Before, maybe you're too busy with all your running of your business, but now you have time to re-examine your efficiency, basically, in terms of manpower, skill sets, and in terms of the basic cost of it. Maybe you don't need so many branches like before. You just have to be more online. But you have to maintain your, number one, you have to maintain your visibility as a travel agent. Do whatever you can so have you are always in people's mind when they want to travel. You need to do that, like I'm doing now. Thank you for the host. And then, of course, you have to pay the dues. You have to pay rent, you have to pay salary. So concurrently, you need to find alternative businesses. Try to do whatever SWOT analysis to know what is your strength. That people associate with your company easily. You should have brand name or followers by now. So try to get involved in other related activities. For example, when we ask our followers, netizens, what are alternative businesses that is suitable for us to do? Many of them give a good suggestion, and we are in fact embarking on those suggestions made by our netizens, which I thank them very much. And then for other business, we go back to travel-related activities. I agree very much with both speakers, especially Dr. Ignatius. They said that we have to be more smaller group, tuned to small group. We are always used to a big group, we charter one whole flight. But now I think we have to re-examine that and try to do a redesign our package so that it will cater for smaller group which have more specific needs, not just the regular, fly, stay, and then, just follow on one tour. And also, Dr. Is mentioned about the culture thing. I also discussed with some friends in the academic side of this. Same thinking. They suggested for us to do more on like cultural homestays. Some people would like to stay in a small village for about 2 weeks. So we have to do that. And then it's tough for people to overcome the competition. When we do specialized thing, many people will prefer that. And when you have the name, God willing, they will come to you because you can design like tailor-made for them, or that can suit them to the last T. So this is the strategy that I would suggest for fellows in the travel agent industry. And last but not least, I don't think I can talk. I think maybe 1 more hour doesn't matter. So I think I have another 5 minutes. So when you talk about the destination itself, when you talk about local destination, like Prof. Jennifer was telling, we have to go more on the nature based, cultural based, and not, similar to what Dr. Ignatius was mentioning. And that's what, thank God, that's what we are embarking on with my team for domestic. And talk about marketing. Marketing, of course, if you want to do any business nowadays, of course, if you have the intention to expand your business, there's no other way but you have to go online. So digital marketing is the way forward. There's no two ways about it. So in this case, our suggestion, and we are sharing what we are doing for our company, is that we are investing more in online digital marketing, whereby we will enable all customers to make bookings and also to make their choices, and then finally to make payment online ourselves on our own website, and hopefully it will become like apps by itself. We are ready to do that at any moment. Before this, we are not 100% on that, only halfway there. But there is the blessing in disguise when there is COVID pandemic. There's always a blessing, something that happened. That's what we believe as Muslims, good or bad. So the blessing is that we are more invested in digital marketing, from booking, and to make ourselves visible. Also, we have to engage more on the various platforms there is, or the FBs, IGs. We have to be online and make ourselves visible. At the same time, if any other venues where we can make our company name visible, we have to be there to participate, like on CSR. Is this a good time to do CSR if you can afford it? And so ourselves, and also I like to share with other players in the travel agent market, we should rely more on digital marketing, and you can do away with your so many branches, cut down on the branches. Maybe you have more like online people manning your contact center should be more well equipped, more knowledgeable, and they are replacing your traditional so-called salesperson that goes around or make basic phone call. So you are more should be more equipped or arm your company with a contact center kind of operation. This is natural, transformation of business from one form to the other. We may have to before we when I was young, I think 20, 30 years ago, we have more face-to-face connection or interaction with the potential customer. They will believe you when they see you or something like that. But now it's not necessary. You can always be online and through video they can see you, and then they can make booking at any time they want. You can provide platform when they can ask whatever they want, in the form of FAQ or personal question and answers, Q&A. You can arrange that. But because in the end, you're still a travel agent. So when you talk about all this, there may be some option for you to expand your role further. Not only as agent, but if you can have a strategic partnership with your group, you have a group hotel, in partnership, you should. This is the time to band together and be more than just a travel agent. You can have a share or stake in their operation, or they can also have a stake in you. They will rely on you. You become their first choice. For example, if in our group we have hotels, we have to work with our hotel group so that we can cross-sell each other. When we have package, they are always on top of our list. So they at the same time it's reciprocal from their side also. And any other example that you can have, just please, I think this is the time to consolidate your group or to work together with your group or even with your clients, VIP client, they are in certain industry. You can explore what they can do to help you as a travel agent or to enhance your role to be more than just a travel agent. With that, I'd like to thank the organizer for allowing me for this sharing session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dato', for your insight and perspective of post-pandemic in tourism businesses. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the next speaker. Okay, we fly back and forth from Malaysia to Indonesia. Now we fly back to Indonesia, Bali again. So our fifth speaker is Mr. Muhammad Sofian Amin. He is a Director of Sales, Ramada by Wyndham Bali Sunset Road, Kuta Resort Bali. He also has diverse experiences from different hotels, including Accor brand at Hotel Mercure Bali, Harvestland Kuta, Ibis Style Bali Denpasar, and Ibis Bali Kuta, Pan Pacific Nirwana Bali Resort, and Hilton Hotel Bandung. He will talk about COVID-19 and the impact to hotel and tourism. So, Mr. Muhammad Sofian, the session is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's my presentation can see and clear for all of you.
Yes, clear.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wan. So I will start my presentation. So good morning, everyone. Thank you to already invite me as a speaker, represent industrial insight from Indonesia, especially Bali. And also it's a very great honor for me as well among for this morning. And thank you to everyone participant for your time for joining this wonderful morning session. Okay, so I will start my presentation. So the topic for myself is about COVID and the impact to hotel and tourism, especially for Indonesia, and I will track deeper for Bali itself. Okay. So I will starting from the
numbers. Okay, as you can see, I will share the inventory that developed in Bali as spatial. So we built increasing very a lot starting 2019 and 2018 and 19, increasing the room inventory in Bali. So the supply is very quite huge previously. Okay, so as we can see, it's increasing about 11%, right? During before the COVID-19. However, during last year when the COVID started, all the hotels starting close. Approximately about 75 to 80%, they are closing operational hotels due to this pandemic. Okay, so next is about room occupancy in Bali and hotel as overall. So if all of you can see for the past over 5 years, our room occupancy average increasing significantly, right? Since 2016. However, in 2020, when we are starting the pandemic, it's dropped to 15%. Okay, and the number of the tourist arrival as well increasing, getting significantly, especially Bali as a destination. So the international tourist is very huge impact during the pandemic, and by the time for the pandemic, it's dropping very significantly as well to the 81.5%. Okay, as by that time our target is 8 million for 2020, but it's not achieved due to the COVID-19. So I will share to you as well the tourist arrival to Bali on 2020. On the beginning, during for the first month on in January, actually we already starting by a good month. In January, we are increasing by 15% compared to last year. However, when COVID-19 started, it's decreasing month by monthly. So as you can see, by the starting on April, it's very dropping very aggressively about because this pandemic is globally impact, right? So yeah, the border is closed and no international traveler that travel to Bali by that time. This is the top 20 of the arrival tourists in Bali, right? We are famous for Australian, Chinese market, Indian, and all over the world. Malaysia is number 10 for us for the arrival to Bali. And when we see the average for dropping for the top 20 arrival is about 83% decreasing. How about our domestic? Domestic tourists for Bali is very significantly increased starting 2016. But during this pandemic also get the impact as well, as because during the half year of 2020, our government do the lockdown as a local travel, domestic cannot travel to Bali. So it's giving impact to about 56% dropping at that time. So I want to share about my property that before the pandemic that we are highlight. Actually, we have a strategic position at that time. So as before, Pak Sony as well mentioned, Bali as well is very having mass tourism, right? So us, because our hotel is in strategic position, we have a mass tourism that's very support to our hotel, especially for leisure segment. because in location that we're having very good in the main road of Sunset Road, and also we have a 15 minutes close to the international airport. So that make our hotel very having a good position by that time. And we are also strong at the market in terms of international and domestic market. And we have a value for product, especially because we are established in brand, as Ramada is very famous for international and domestic too. This is our feeder market for Ramada Bali Sunset Road. So as I mentioned to you that China market, India market, Indonesia market is very supporting to our hotel. Plus Asian that we have dropped to the like Malaysian and also Thailand. That's very support to our hotel as well. So this is the statistic for internal our hotel that you can see, right? Starting 2017 till 19, we are increasing a lot. But in the 2020, during the pandemic, we are hit very down to the road. And starting from, if you see from April onwards, there is we are below 1% occupancy, but there is some month that we're having very good pickup. I will share to you on the next slide what we have actually, what kind of new business by the time we have for this pandemic situation. So I want to divide it by three phase for our patient. First, we have impact of loss. Yes, we have a loss of business. We have loss of revenue. Even we are loss of our staff. Previously, we have 140 staff. Now become 45 staff because we have to minimize our staff due to this situation. And also we have our staff also, especially because we are before pandemic, we are very busy, right, with the business. And now the spirit and the motivation is very it's dropped because no business at all. So by this time, at the time that we are very can say stressful because due to this situation. And this is the after this starting of beginning of year that I shared before that we having a special market that currently that we are developed. We adapt as a government regulation. We have to adapt the new normal health protocol by the that we call the new normal experience, right, during the check-in and also during the guest stay. And also this is the new market that we are adapt, that health tourism. Why we're calling health tourism? Because now we are transferred from the leisure segment to the quarantine market segment, where we are join the government recovery program. So our hotel, because we have two side-by-side building, so the one building we are accommodate for the isolation program for the recovery of COVID-19 patients. So this is the new things that we are currently developed. And also during the arrival period, we also facing the tough competition because as the supply, right, very lot in Bali, the price war also happened during among Comset, because now as a domestic also we are very eager to get this kind of business, but it's very limited also domestic. Now they are can try a lot of new accommodation, maybe a lot try to new place that they before want to stay. So that's the thing that we are also having quite competition on this period. In the fast future that we want to hope for this recovery COVID-19, we want to, even our government now is already start for vaccine COVID-19, right, for certain level of segment vaccine. we want also to try to government, especially if we have chance to with Malaysia, can open the borders as well. So try to do the bubble travel between Indonesia and Malaysia. And also we want to have the government regulation that support our tourism sector as well. So this is I capturing from our new Minister of Tourism, Bapak Sandiaga Uno. And, for this recovery COVID-19, we have to do innovation, adaptation, and also the collaboration. So this is the strategy that we want to implement for this time being. The new concept that our government wants to develop is wellness tourism, culinary tourism, sport tourism, edu tourism, and the new things that maybe we can implement between Indonesia and Malaysia is Muslim-friendly tourism that we can in the next during discovery time. So our hotel, especially and all the hotel in Bali and Indonesia, we already have the safety guarantee certificate that our local tourism department already provide for, because we already have to follow the health protocol in each sector. So these two certificates that already achieved is a Cleanliness, Health, Safety, Environment certificate from our Ministry of Tourism. So the future hope that I just mentioned earlier, that we want to travel further agreement is starting, right? Especially between Asian countries, right? So these things that we have to do by Asian countries. To open international direct flight to Bali, so not through Jakarta, so that can be is the easiest time consuming as well. Maybe we can have a pre-book partner agent bubble schema. So like maybe between Malaysia and also our hotel, the Bali Sunset Road, we can have the collaboration between this. So once the border is open, so we can have the travel quality traveler that can visit Bali. Because we have to monitor all the traveler right during this recovery time. So I think that's the presentation from my side. If any question, please let me know after this session. So thank you so much, everyone, and Dr. Wan. So I pass to you for the time.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sofian from Ramada Hotel Bali. And I think up until this point, we have listened to 5 different speakers and give 5 different perspectives on tourism recovery. And all of us have listened and gained input of how tourism will be recovered by rebuilding domestic destinations and also the entire tourism system. All right, so next we have the final speaker. Okay, for the session, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Sridhar Ramachandran. He is a professor specializing in sustainability with an emphasis on the areas of responsible tourism and marketing from Putra Malaysia School of Business and Economics. Leadership in sustainability, tourism marketing, collaborative management in responsible tourism, corporate social responsibility or CSR in tourism, and research philosophy are his areas of research interest. So without any further ado, I would like to call Prof. Dr. Sridhar Ramachandran to talk about his topic on inquiring inclusivity in tourism, tribal, institutional, market, and network. So please welcome Professor Sridhar.
Thank you, Dr. Wan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, right. Thank you very much for this opportunity to Mr. Reza as well as Prof. Fuad for putting this together. My topic, let's see. Okay. When Prof. Fuad first invited me, I asked him, is it possible if I don't speak about COVID? So he smilingly said, fine, go ahead. So because I think the first 5 speakers have covered quite extensively on COVID, my area of expertise is sustainability. And I've always asked this question of because when we talk about sustainability, the 3 pillars will be economic, environment, and social. So to get this to work, what will be required? Are we being inclusive enough to achieve this sustainability? If you look at SDGs, we have 17 sustainable development goals, but that can be summarized into these 3 pillars of sustainability. So the question for today is what and where is inclusivity? Probably B can also agree with me when we talk about inclusivity, the male-female, the gender inclusivity is also part of how we can go forward in the future of tourism sustainability. So when I was thinking of a topic for today, so this is what came to my mind. It's more of questions rather than a response. Inquiring inclusivity in tourism. So how can we achieve this? So when I was looking into inclusivity, the framework that came across or came to my attention was the TIMN. T for tribes, I for institution, M for markets, and N for networks. So if you look at this model, it can be interpreted in several contexts, from organizational context, from an evolution of how humans used to live in a tribal manner, institutional manner, market manner, or network manner. And we can also look into it from a perspective of in tourism. As much as we are in the digital or going towards the digital era, are there some elements of tribal or institutional or markets that's holding us back from going towards the networks or digital era? So for that, this could be a little sensitive because we are talking about batik. Okay, we have Malaysia and Indonesia both went into battle. When we talk about tribal, the whole interpretation of tribal is because we have a strong sense of identity, belonging, a cultural belonging or nationalism. So when we look into a tribal kind of a thing, in fact, you could even see within Malaysian context, those in West Malaysia as compared to those in the east coast of Malaysia, and then Sabah and Sarawak, there are some strong cultural feeling or belonging and identity, which is good. But the question is, does it hold us back from being inclusive? So does being tribal in behavior, does it hold us back from being inclusive in achieving sustainability, especially within the tourism framework? And the next one, moving on from tribal, is institutional. So I'll give you the Malaysian context. If in Malaysia we have the federal government, the state government, and local government. And to share with you some of the research work that we have done, for about 5 years we had a long-term grant and we were working in Sampurna, Sabah. And we could see that there is a lot of differences in the way decisions are taken or implemented. For example, at a federal level, you have Tourism Malaysia to promote tourism as Malaysia as a destination. And then at state level, you have, like say, Tourism Sabah. So there would have or could have been instances where both parties go to the same fair to promote each other. So what we are saying is that do this institutional context, when you have a hierarchy, because institutional speaks about hierarchy, the emphasis on hierarchy, do they actually stop from being inclusive and embracing each other's strength? So this is something that also needs to be addressed if we want to talk about inclusivity, addressing the sustainability in tourism. So institutions are good, but to what extent are they holding us back? So that could be the question that we need to look at if we want to move to the future where we are looking into more market-driven as well as network-driven. So if we look at market, when we talk about market-driven, it was very well received upon, because when we speak about market-driven, we wanted to see who survives best and who can give the best services. So when we allow it to the market, many agencies prospered. At the same time, market-driven have to some extent capitalist tendencies. Again, I could share with you some of our research work in Sampurna, Sabah, where scuba dive centers are owned by for expats, foreigners, where of course they hire the locals, but the knowledge transfer or the knowledge or the economic activity at that level going to the locals are not achieved. So there's a huge disparity when it is market driven, and that causes to a large extent poverty as well among the local communities. So now the question is the economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and social sustainability. If we are only fully dependent on markets, okay, can we actually address the sustainability issue? So then comes the tourism and network driven scenario. So when we talk about networks, this is the last, the TIMN, tribe, institution, market, and network. So when we look at network, we are looking at the connectedness, the connectivity of dispersed groups, different groups, and individuals, and it's enabled by digital information technology. We are familiar with Airbnb, we are familiar with Grab, Gojek, in Malaysia, Soka, plus these are the areas where we have to look back into even institution. We have, for example, traditional lodging sectors may not be happy with the existence of Airbnb, but is it Airbnb's fault? So if we take similar example, when first Grab came about, or Grab and Uber came about, taxis were not happy. But now we can see that taxis see the benefit of Grab and Uber, and the taxis are also taking part to become part of the Grab Uber community. And I think similarly, I think Airbnb, as much as it is giving a lot of challenges to the newer, to the conventional accommodation sector. So we need to find a way to probably regulate in the beginning, but this is the way forward, because we are connected. As we say, the individuals are connected, the groups are connected, the different state or institutions are connected. So if we were to ask, can inclusivity be achieved by being highly network driven? My answer to that is yes. I believe that to achieve inclusivity, we have to look at the sustainability components as a network, not as a silo sectors. So when we talk about back to the theme of this webinar, the future of tourism, how can we achieve inclusivity? How can network help achieve inclusivity? But we have to answer this question first. What are the current gaps in the traditional economy? Because we are moving towards gig economy, and we are in gig economy, and we are in digital economy. So if we are taking a step forward, what are the things that we need to do? We know that there are generational differences. We have the Zs, the millennials, the Gen X, and the baby boomers. And if we see, I'll let you decide on the section below here, what do we feel like? Do we feel like which wildlife do we feel like being associated to? Because that is the nature of these different generations. So which generation are we in, and what have we learned, and how do we, or what do we need to learn moving forward? So we have to remember almost 1/3 of the world's population born since 2001. Almost 1/3 of the world's population is born since 2001. So we are looking into the millennials and post-millennials population as a market to our tourism product. So the millennials are about to be surpassed by post-millennials. So if you look at the percentage given here, you have 32% of the global population. This is at the end of 2019. So if probably you look at 2021, it might be higher. Nudging ahead of millennials, who will account for about 31.5%. So if you put it together, you're looking into 63.5%, or 7.7 billion people in 2019 who are the post-millennials. How do they think? How do they work? When they were born, they were already born with a device in hand, okay, a digital device in hand. So for that purpose, I think, like in Indonesia, President Jokowi has included the new millennials into his team for decision-making purpose to get a feedback on the entrepreneurship, creative industry. And even in Malaysia, if you look into the previous government during Tun Mahathir's time, a very, very young minister, Syed Saddiq, was appointed as, I think below 30s, was appointed as the Ministry of Youth and Sports. So all these are to look into where we are heading to. How do we be inclusive? So if you look into the gig economy, the question mark comes from an even tourism context. I think Datuk mentioned earlier the way travel agency needs to change. They have to go digital, they have to go online. So we are looking into going from resource focused to knowledge intensive, labor intensive to high skill talent. So if you look at the digital economy, this is the shift. Then it's no longer talking about knowledge transfer, which is one way, but we are talking about the network, the knowledge sharing, which is not just two ways, but many ways, if you look into the network perspective. So coming back to this, inquiring inclusivity in tourism. So moving forward, I think if we are still in some form of tribal mindset or institutional mindset, or still very much market driven, if we want to see a future that shows tourism a direction or path, then networks is one way to look at it. And engaging stakeholders in building this network is important. For example, rather than being tribal, we can build inclusive cultural networks. For example, even batik. It can be a batik hub if you combine the strength of Malaysia and Indonesia. From an institutional perspective, we can build inclusive governance platform where if there are 3 layers, how can the federal actually listen or actually hear what the local government have to say, because sometimes the local government have a better understanding of what's happening locally. And from a market perspective, Harvard has done it as well. We can look into the inclusive business model to bridge the economic divide. And I think finally, when we're talking about network, this is where I would like to emphasize on the inclusivity of things, where SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, will be the underpinning framework, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that speaks about equality and inclusivity. Then we also need to consolidate tourism database, because as is it now, it's very ad hoc. big data analytics are available, blockchains are available, AIs are available. So we need to move towards that direction. And our national workforce, we need to revisit the national workforce so that they are prepared for the digital economy. So finally, answering the question, what and where is inclusivity? I think for sustainability to happen, inclusivity is in the heart of it. So the future will be something that is more inclusive so that we all can benefit and the well-being of the economy, environment, and society are taken care of. Last but not least, this is something that has inspired my thoughts as well. If you have time towards going into inclusivity and network, do read this book, The Starfish and the Spider. One good learning from it is that a starfish has a head, spider does not. So if you cut off the head of the starfish, it will collapse. So if you're being very institutional or if you're being very one person centric, it's easy to collapse. But if you cut off one of the flaps of the starfish, it will grow back. So this is actually what happened as a snippet from this book, where if you see the Aztec Empire, it was defeated by Spanish army, but they were using the spider organization, which has a leader. So the moment you hit the leader or you poison the leader, the whole thing collapsed. However, the Spanish army were not able to defeat the Apaches because they were very much like a starfish, and they didn't know. So the starfish can represent the network or the inclusivity that we are talking about. So terima kasih and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Sridhar from UVM, and thank you so much also for promoting the Starfish book. I think everyone should get it, I guess, yeah. It's a good anthology, and I think it's a good book to read as well. All right, okay, so we have another presentation. So we are done with all 6 speakers. Thank you so much. And we will continue with the Q&A after this presentation. So before we start with the Q&A session, I would like to invite presenters. First, we have Dr. Paul Rogers from Planet Happiness, based in Sydney, Australia, to give a brief talk about his words on this. Please, Dr. Paul Rogers, the floor is yours.
Marvelous, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. There's been some excellent presentations. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation Professor Sridhar gave just then, touching on inclusivity, and that forms a focus of my presentation here today. I'm going to move quite quickly because I know time is short. Prior to the COVID pandemic, let's think about tourism pre-COVID a little bit. We all know it's one of the world's largest industries, travel and tourism. It has huge potential with regard to poverty alleviation and changing people's lives for the better. But on the challenges side, pre-COVID, over-tourism, the tourism and climate change agenda, and as we've heard a bit today as well, and the gig economy is part of this. There are a range of issues related to the leaking of funds and moving money overseas, and whilst making the most of the opportunities with the pressures ahead of us to meet the SDGs and avoid climate change, we need to work harder and more purposefully. And I think if we look at destination planning, of which I've been doing for the last 20 years, I think there are inherent weaknesses that are increasingly evident. We all know, and has been acknowledged today, businesses need to focus on profit. They need to do that to survive. Governments, they need to celebrate their unique selling points and illustrate, the benefits that they're delivering to visitors and to their government systems. And the visitors themselves, they like to take their, selfie of their wonderful experience. But over time, in this mix of priorities, I believe the evidence will back me up that host communities have been slowly but surely disenfranchised. So trying to build back not just better, but fitter and stronger, I believe there is a need for greater inclusivity to build well-being front and center, the well-being of the host community. After all, a great place to live is a great place to visit, and the global sustainable tourism, as well as the ASEAN tourism standards, all acknowledge that tourism should be developed to strengthen destination well-being. But what does this term well-being actually mean? And this is why we founded Planet Happiness just over 2 years ago, to engage with this well-being agenda and use tourism as a narrative to strengthen destination well-being. Planet Happiness is a project of the Happiness Alliance, a US-registered non-profit with considerable expertise in measuring happiness and providing course books, policy books. It's recognized by OECD for its work in this emerging area. So we started Planet Happiness with a mission to focus the attention of all tourism stakeholders on this well-being agenda and use tourism as a vehicle for development to demonstrably strengthen destination sustainability and the quality of life of host communities. We've seen in Bali with the pandemic, for example, that the undermining of tourism has left hundreds of people starving, or I wouldn't necessarily say starving, sorry. I would say people are going without food as a result of this pandemic and the collapse of tourism. So if we look at destination planning, it's typically an activity that engages all elements of government and the private sector through the hotel associations, etc., other associations, and typically it kind of focuses on those two groups. And whilst local communities may be consulted occasionally, perhaps one or two key people, but really it doesn't engage local communities. And this is what we're focused on, is making tourism more inclusive by focusing the engagement on local communities. So how do we do this? We deploy a tool of the Happiness Index, which is based on Bhutan's approach to measuring well-being. We have a 15-minute online survey that at the end of the survey gives the survey taker a scorecard comparing happiness across 11 domains with all other survey takers. So this shows people what measuring happiness is about and how we can use the results. And from a destination planning perspective, if we deploy the survey in a destination, we can therefore get a one-page scorecard of the happiness of the host community. So this is actually an early scorecard that we have done in partnership with the Bali Tourism Polytechnic in Labuan Bajo, and it illustrates that the survey takers in gold are happier than most survey takers. So that might say, well, what role does tourism play in strengthening the well-being of the host community? But from my perspective, it gets more interesting when you take away the comparison with everybody else. You stack the scores from low to high, and you can see where the strengths of the community are, and you can see where the deficiencies are. And in this case, it's access to lifelong learning, the arts and culture, work-leisure time balance, and sense of community. So if tourism is a vehicle for development, an engine of change and growth, what can the sector be doing in this space in partnership with local communities, coming up with ideas and suggestions? How can the stakeholders work together to strengthen the quality of life and the well-being of host communities? So we have a 10-step process to move through this and build the capacity of local research institutions, destination management organizations to carry this process forward. But I know my time is short. That's a very brief introduction. That's how we work. We're an expanding organization. We have recognition from WTTC, GSTC, and others. And I look forward to opportunity to engage further with you all at some other stage outside this meeting. Thank you very much for your kind invitation to join the event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Rogers. So I think for further information about Planet Happiness, please browse through the website, www.ourheritageourhappiness.org. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Rogers, for the brief and quite insightful thoughts, perspective on Planet Happiness. Next, let's move on to we also have another special presentation. I would like to invite Ms. Ines Puspita from Jakarta, Indonesia, to give a few words for the webinar. Please welcome Ms. Ines Puspita.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hi.
Some screen, probably. Can you all hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Allowed to share a screen? Okay. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. So it takes some time. Sorry. Okay. So let me introduce myself. My name is Ines.
Yeah, the line is a bit unclear. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
all right. Do you manage to share the content? Yeah.
So we because the good energy.
We're very sorry. We cannot hear you very well from here.
Biodiversity, finance, poverty.
Ms. Ines, we can't hear you.
MPs, and one of the way.
Ms. Ines. Yeah, I think we have line issues here. Ms. Ines, are you there? I think we lost Malaysia Sabah. So the question is, do Malaysia have specific SOP, standard operational procedure for each tourism products, which this might help the industry? And Datuk, can you answer this question?
Thank you. Actually, I did answer in writing, but just to repeat the same answer, as of now, the government has only one uniform or standard SOP for all visitors to Malaysia. For example, if, first and foremost, they will require visitor to have permission to travel into Malaysia. Then they need to have their PCR test, and also they have to sign letter of undertaking. And in a sense, in the letter, they acknowledge that they are willing to pay for the quarantine cost related to it. So doesn't matter where you come from. So far there's only one uniform SOP for visitors. Same thing for outbound also. You need to have the PCR test. Of course, you need to have the permission to travel abroad first. Then you need to have PCR test not more than 72 hours before time of departure. Okay, with the negative result, then only you can, with the rest of the requirement, the visa, if the country require visa, and then of course the passport and the valid ticket. So far only one SOP for inbound and a standard SOP for outbound, regardless of destination. Only when you go out you are subjected to that country or that destination's own SOP. Some country may require extra SOP, and so before you go abroad, you must make sure the country you want to visit, what are their requirements for you before you enter their country. So that may differ from one country to the other. But for us Malaysian, to receive visitors, so far there's only one standard SOP. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dato'. Okay, I think I have a question for Dr. Soni. Yeah, there's a question from Mr. Abdullah. So he asked about what is your opinion if there is a policy? Oh my God, wait. I lost the question. Okay. What is your opinion if there is a policy to show the vaccine proof certificate when we visit another country? This vaccine proof certificate is implies when we need to enter a holy mosque, Mecca and Medina. Dr. Soni, can you try to answer this, I guess? Yeah. Yeah, it's talking about the vaccine proof certificate, I think in relation to maybe traveling something. Yeah, international traveling, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. For a start, there is in the connection with the holy city of Makkah and Medina. Even before the pandemic, the Indonesian government is put a mandatory vaccinations to whoever that is going for a Haji pilgrimage. But I don't think it's mandatory for Umrah, which is they have to have a meningitis vaccinations. And so, I mean, in terms of the time, back in the 70s, if we have to go to certain countries like to the US or Europe, and to some extent to Australia as well, we have to present some kind of vaccination card if we're coming from, say, back then is an underdeveloped countries. It's a vaccination card for free of TBC, for example, or the BCG, and etc. So it is something that is becoming not really so much a new one for the traveler to present the vaccination card, because it was happening before a long time. So I think that hopefully that is answer the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Soni. Okay, I think
may I say something?
Dato', yeah, please. Yeah. A very brief one. Yeah.
Because I'm in the Umrah and Hajj business.
Yeah.
So when you want to go to any country, the same as you are going to Saudi Arabia, they will require you to fulfill some requirement, specifically talking about vaccination. So as of now, the Saudi Arabian government still maintain the same original pre-COVID requirement, which is only vaccination for meningococcal meningitis. So there's only one. They didn't mention anything about the new vaccine for COVID-19. So we are allowed to go there now. You are, and anybody, most country is allowed to visit Saudi Arabia now to do their Umrah. But there's no need for COVID vaccination. Only the previous, the standard vaccination for meningococcal meningitis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're going for the last question, which is a general question to all the panels, the 6 speakers. Okay, so yeah, you can maybe anyone from the speakers can answer this question. This is from Dr. Wan Muhammad Rizhan, Wan Idris. He asks about the cultures and customs are essential elements that contribute in tourism. Current situation has limited the monitoring and preservation of these elements. What are steps to preserve the cultures and customs in order to conserve their authenticity and originality? So yeah, I open this question to maybe 1 or 2 speakers.
If I may answer first.
Yeah, please, Doctor.
Yeah. For a start, there is experience in Bali, because Bali is very deep-rooted in the culture and the customs. So regardless whether there is a pandemic or not, long before the tourism started in Bali, they have a kind of a practice every once a week or twice a week. Banjar is a place when people gathering, all the youth, the people, and one of the activities is actually doing something that is conserving and preserving the culture and the customs, like arts, and they have a music practice, they have a dance practice, etc. So it is something that is quite interesting because I haven't found anywhere which is a structured, maintains conservation of a culture and customs is being regimented, practiced in their activities. I'm not familiar with Malaysia, but in Bali it's really something that we do. And secondly, because of that, it also conserves the identity and the originality. Even in one, say, regency in Bali, they have a certain unique dance that is not found in any other regions in Bali. So we have a very diverse and very rich culture and customs, and they're being maintained on the regular basis by the people. And even so, it is being inherited as well to the other generations. So the next generation will carry the torch to conserve and to preserve the culture and the customs. So therefore, Bali will still be the destination for the much cultural tourism, as well as maybe in the future will be the MICE tourism, as well as a health tourism and wellness tourism. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, I think due to the time constraint, I think we need to pass the questions. We will answer the questions later on, and we will record everything here. And thank you so much for all the questions from the members and also from the participants. And before we end, I would like to invite all the speakers to put several words as a concluding remark, just one line of concluding remark for each one of you. And I think we might start it with Dr. Harunizam, the first speaker, to make a concluding remark, a line of concluding remark. Yes.
I will say, and then in tourism, if it's benefiting the people, and we must allow that, and pandemic should not become the obstacle.
Exactly.
That's all. So we have to foresee, do the projection, and make the tourist flow sustain as usual. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Harunizam. Next, from Professor Dr. Jennifer.
Yes, I think to strengthen the tourism, domestic tourism can be one of the ways to revitalize the industry within this COVID pandemic. However, a clear direction is needed and a collaboration as well as capacity building in this new normal environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Soni.
It is also imperative to study the pattern in the history of tourism, especially during the pandemic in 1915 and the post-Great Depression in 1929. So we will find the pattern and in how that actually the tourism repositions and forming a new paradigm. So that can also contribute to our on how to overcome this COVID.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, next, Dato' Haji Ahmad Ruzman, please. A short brief of concluding.
Yeah, I just share some keywords. That's all. Always should be market driven and study your market very well. You can't do without digital marketing nowadays. And number 3, to cater all that, if need be, you got to retrain or resize your organization. That's my sharing with travel agents.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Muhammad Sofian, please.
Okay, thank you. So from hotel perspective, that we are always ready for the new pattern. So hopefully we can start the beginning of new pattern tourism business soon. Thank you.
Right. And the final speaker, the 6th speaker, Prof. Sridhar Ramachandran. Please.
Not to worry. because tourism will bounce back strong. I think as humans will not be confident. The very word cannot moving. So it's the country definitely want to travel and it will bounce back strong.
Yes, I think we're pretty sure about that. Yeah. Okay, and the last but not least, our chairman, Professor Dr. Ahmad Puan Maksum, to give a final concluding remarks. Please, I would like to invite him.
Okay, we come to the end of the session, and I would like to thank all the 6 speakers, our special guests, and all the participants from all over the world. It's very nice to see participants from different countries, from Malaysia, Indonesia, from Australia, from the United States, and from India as well, to be in this webinar. And I would like to acknowledge also that we have Professor Jafar Jafari in this webinar. He is one of the top tourism gurus in the world. He is the founding editor and chief editor of many top-ranked journals. Thank you, Prof. Jafari, for being with us this morning from Wisconsin, United States. And all speakers have given both academic and industrial perspective on how to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. And throughout the presentation, we have seen that the pandemic has changed the way we travel, and many destinations previously known as over-tourism have been turned into under-tourism. Previously, we flocked to mass tourism attraction or destination, but now we are more eager to special interest and small-scale tourism. And each subsector and destination country has come up with remedial strategies in order to make quick recovery. And we have to get used to the new health protocol, new business model, and digitalization. And what is important is that we have to be proactive instead of being reactive. And the pandemic teaches us on how to be resilient. And I really hope that very soon that we can return to the pre-pandemic situation. We can visit each other, especially in tourism. I remembered what Professor Jafari said, that tourism will continue to stay, because as human beings, we always have the desire to travel to other countries, to meet new people, to discover new things. And with the vaccine arriving in Malaysia and Indonesia, we really hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully that we will make quick recovery. Thanks to all for this webinar. Thanks to Reza for being the organizer of this tourism webinar. And we look forward to future webinar, especially the one forthcoming, Women Voices in Tourism, hosted by Ms. Bea Broda. And I would like to pass on the session back to our moderator. Thank you to all.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Ahmad Puan, for the closing remarks. All right, and so we come to the end now, and thank you so much again to everyone, and special thanks to our chairman, Prof. Ahmad Puan Maksum, to all the speakers. I begin with Dato' Haji Ahmad Ruzman Ahmad Razali, Professor Dr. Jennifer Chan, Professor Dr. Sridhar Ramachandran, Associate Professor Dr. Hairul Nizam Ismail, Dr. Ignatius Soni Yarso, and Mr. Muhammad Sofyan bin Amin, and also special thanks to our special presentation from Dr. Paul Rogers, Ms. Diabroda, and also Ms. Ines Puspita. Thank you for your time, and I do hope to see you again very soon in maybe in different webinars and also and different events. So thank you again, and stay safe, and see you again. Bye bye.
Thank you.